Where did my father think my life would lead? The question presents itself out of the blue. Whatever the answer might have been, it wouldn't be here, that's for sure. The world in which we lived was small and quiet. It was simple. One day he would die and I would take his place as the leader of our people. That was the way things were and always would be. Even in his wildest dreams, I doubt he would have come anywhere close to guessing the truth. Raising my tankard, I tip it back to savour the last few drops of cider. It's crisp and sweet, with just the slightest tang offered by the raspberries that flavour it. After a long day of manual labour, it hits the spot. Drunkenly slamming it back down on the table, I grin across at Emine as she does the same. This is fun, but a wave of guilt crashes into me. 9 months. Not even an entire year. On one hand, it feels like an eternity. On the other, like no time at all. Is it too soon to be having fun? To be sat drinking cider, laughing and joking with a friend, and feeling genuinely happy? Part of me whispers that I'm being disrespectful. But that isn't fair, is it? What choice do I have? The only thing I can do to honour the memories of those that I lost is to savour every moment. They're gone, but not forgotten, and they would want me to be happy. My life has changed so much in such a short time. It's almost incomparably different now, although the last few days have offered a sense of relative normality. This time last year we were doing much the same as the people of Minton are now, preparing for the onset of winter. If somebody had asked me then what I thought I'd be doing in 12 months, it's safe to say the truth would have been unimaginable. I could never have guessed that I would be living untold miles into the north, in a kingdom I had no idea even existed, getting drunk in the Canary Cage inn. It's a nice place on the edge of town, homely and comfortable, with an open fire crackling away to fight back the sudden chill of the autumnal shift. Of all the towns Emine and I have visited these last few months, Minton is my favourite. There's an air of defiant determination, an unflinching conviction to face life's hardships with pride. It's not an easy life, but they persist. They push forward with their heads held high. Since leaving Huxley, Minton is the only place that I've found in which I could see myself settling down, and I think Emine feels the same way. The last few days have been spent helping out around town, harvesting the summer crop, replanting for the winter, assisting with livestock and pretty much anything else the farmers have needed a hand with. In a way, it's been comforting to fall back into old habits and routines. Farming is what I know. It's my bread and butter. It hasn't been purely agricultural assistance that we've provided, though. It seems that the people of Minton are tired of living in a town they feel has received no love for the best part of a decade, and they're taking it upon themselves to bring about what they're calling the Great Change. A superficial and structural renovation spearheaded by the mayor, a man that most people refer to simply as Boss Man. Piece by piece, the town is being renewed with an eye set firmly on the future. By all accounts, Boss Man has big dreams, and whether or not they're achievable, the fires of hope have tempered the despondent spirits of the locals. Although they were initially somewhat prickly and dubious of our presence when we first arrived, they warmed to us when we made it clear we were willing to pitch in. Our stay here has been a whirl of hammering, sawing, sanding and painting, laying bricks and fresh cobbles. Anything we've been asked to do, we've done so happily. My body aches, but it's worth it for the sense of achievement and pride. To be part of something again. Wherever the spirits of my family now reside, I hope that they're watching with a smile. Maybe it's foolish to seek the approval of the dead, but I want to be the sort of man that would make them proud. Stop thinking so much, Emine scolds me with a scowl for emphasis. The denial dies on my lips as she waves a hand dismissively. It's written all over your face. Just relax for a bit. I'm going to get more drinks in, and if you're still at it when I get back, there's going to be trouble. I'm more than a little merry right now. I'm not sure whether the cider is particularly potent or I'm just no good at holding my drink anymore, but it's gone straight to my head. In all fairness to me, it's just over 9 months since I set out from Huxley, Even longer than that since I sat down for a casual drink. It does feel good though. Apparently, Bossman is determined to turn the Minton cidery into a big source of income for the town, through export and maybe even tourism. Personally, I can't get enough of it. Closing my eyes for a moment, I soak in the atmosphere. The inn was quiet when we first arrived, but now it's rowdy. A mixture of wood and tobacco smoke hangs in the air. A small dog snuffles and grunts as he works his way from table to table, seeking affection and scraps. All around me, people are eating, laughing and telling stories. A group of men in the far corner are playing some sort of card game. I hear one of them curse loudly as the latest round concludes. Then his chair scrapes and he stomps over to the bar, complaining loudly as he goes. I have to admit I've already formed an attachment to this place. The air of hope is infectious and I want to see what Bossman has in store, what his big plans are. I would love to stick around and see Minton flourish. I want to be a part of it. In my heart I still don't know if we're doing enough. Little jobs here and there are fine, but what do they really mean in the grand scheme of things? What difference do they make in the long term? "You're still thinking," I hear Emine say as she sets my tankard down in front of me and then takes her seat again. You do realise that thinking is just a byproduct of being alive, don't you? I counter without opening my eyes. "You know what I mean, smart ass." I do, and she's right. Reopening my eyes, I see her fixing me with a stern expression, but then she cracks up. It's strange, this comfortable familiarity. After just a few months, she already feels like a friend that I've known all my life. I guess, in a way, I have. I left one version of myself behind in Huxley. For a while I was little more than a ghost, and now I feel like an entirely different man. "Tell me about the first time you got drunk," I say, before taking a deep pull from my tankard. This is my 4th round, and it's every bit as good as the first 3. I'm sure I'm going to regret my enthusiasm for Minton's premium raspberry cider in the morning, but tomorrow is another day, and my inevitable hangover is not tonight's concern. "It was my 16th birthday. Emine smiles wistfully as she recalls the memory. "I think Celeste wanted me to feel grown up or something. She managed to get her hands on some wine, and I think she meant for me to have the one glass, but that didn't happen, not once she'd had a few herself. Before I knew it, she was pouring me another and another until we were both hammered. It was the best. I don't think I'd ever seen Sal laugh that much. Her face was so red." I can tell there's a bittersweet tinge to the story as she sits in quiet contemplation for a second, and I regret asking. I hadn't meant to sour the mood. But almost as if Emine can read my mind, she offers a swift shake of her head before taking a hearty swig of her drink and jabbing a finger at me. "Don't think you're getting away without sharing, wild man. Let's hear how they do it in the unsettled south." Gods have mercy, why did I start this conversation? Well, it's too late. There's no backing out now, and although I'm hesitant about the direction this will take, fair's fair, and my tongue's being loosened by the drink. I was 15. It was the summer solstice and there was a party. Me and some friends managed to get our hands on a few bottles of Ram's Ale. "Wait a sec, Ram's Ale?" "Yes, brewed by Ram, so named due to the fact he was a giant amongst men that once beat a ram in a fair fight, knocked it clean out with his bare hands and carried it home for supper." "Alright then, farm boy, pull the other one." "Okay, fine, his name was Ramsey, but that's not as fun." Taking another mouthful of crisp cider, I prepare myself for what's coming. He was a big guy though, towered above pretty much everybody. People used to joke that the ground would shake as he approached. If Ram was around, you knew about it. Anyway, we shared the bottles out, I drank too much, and in a vain attempt to impress a girl, I fell flat on my face after trying to leap over a haystack. Emine burst into a fit of laughter, as I knew she would, and I bury my face in my hands to hide the embarrassment. That night was so long ago, and yet somehow it still holds the power to make me squirm. "Brilliant! Did it work?" she asks between heaving breaths. "No, I fell flat on my face, I just said that." I shrug in a useless attempt to avoid this line of questioning. "You know what I mean," she scoffs with a familiar roll of her eyes. "Was the girl impressed?" As a matter of fact, yes, she was, I admit before raising my tankard for another drink so I don't have to look at her stupid grinning face. Did you make her your girlfriend? I attempt to arrange my face in an expression that says she's being immature, but her smirk disarms me. Gods give me strength, I am no match for this woman. Yes, all right, very funny, I sigh exasperatedly. No, actually, I think it would be more accurate to say she made me her boyfriend. Why she saw anything in me after the haystack thing, I don't know, but she picked me up and made me see the funny side of it. I was still humiliated, but I forgot about that pretty quickly. You know what I'm going to ask next, she says as her grin broadens mischievously. Of course I do. I basically asked for this, and I swear I'm never drinking again. Why do I spend time with you? I groan. Answer the question, she insists. You didn't ask a question. Yes, I did. If you must know, then yes, that night was a night of many firsts, I grumble begrudgingly. The gleeful smile on Emine's face is unbearable as she shakes her head in mock disapproval. You dog, she laughs. Get a girl drunk and take her to bed? It wasn't like, I begin, but the look on Emine's face stops me in my tracks. Every time. I rise to the bait every time. Oh, very funny. You're so funny. I should have taken you in and claimed that bounty. I wonder if it's too late. Whatever, she dismisses that last jab casually. So what happened next? You fell on your face, she kissed you better, then what? Well, I stumbled home, long after the party finished, thinking I could sneak in without being noticed. Obviously, my father was waiting for me and he knew more or less exactly where I'd been and what I'd been up to. Was he mad? I thought he would be. The next morning I expected him to be furious, but he just shook his head at me and told me I was to go see Ram. We all spent the next 2 weeks helping out with whatever task he decided to give us to make up for the cost of the ale. I got it worse than anyone, because Sophia was his daughter and he wasn't particularly happy after hearing we'd gone off on our own. You mean he wasn't happy that his daughter was getting cosy with the prince? Unbelievable. You're not going to let the prince thing drop, are you? How many times do I have to tell you I was just trying to bait Theodoric? Wipe that bloody smirk off your face, you're unbearable. I watch as she tries, and fails, to keep a straight face, and then shake my head with a weary scowl. So, yes, the only one that got away with it was Sophia. Ram let her off once she apologised, and I never heard the end of it. She was so pleased with herself for getting away with it while the rest of us were being worked like horses, even though it was her idea. Smart girl. Yeah, she was. Too smart for me, that's for sure. We were happy for a long time. I wish you could have met her, Emine. I think you'd have been good friends. Actually, forget that. The two of you working together would have been terrifying. I can barely put up with you as it is. I receive a kick under the table for that, and Emine laughs as I wince. I had a boyfriend for a bit, but after Sal died, it kind of fell apart. I was pissed off all the time, and I just pushed him away. Then he joined the Queen's Guard, and obviously I wanted nothing to do with him after that. Was there anybody else afterwards? Nah, I wasn't interested in all that, to be honest. Me and James were close, we wanted the same things and we worked well as a team, but it never went any further than that. What happened with Sophia? This was the bit I was dreading. Recalling the humiliation was the much easier part. Shuffling my feet, I looked down at the table and scratched the back of my neck awkwardly. It's strange to share all of this with her, and I don't know why. Will it change how she looks at me? Should I have told her sooner? Shit. Evander, I'm sorry. It's okay, I cut in. I want to tell you, it's just... We stayed together. About 18 months later, she was pregnant and we were married. We had a daughter, Annabelle. A lump rises in my throat once I've said it and I can't look at her. I know that her face is going to be full of sadness and pity, and I just can't. Were they... She trails off and I shake my head. No. They were gone by the end. I thank the gods they were. Losing them hurt, but they died peacefully. A simple sickness. Good. She reaches across the table and gives my hand a squeeze. I wish they were here now, but I'm glad it wasn't like the others. Me too, I agree quietly. They were happy times, I mean. I look back on them fondly, but they're in the past. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. Don't worry. I get it. she assures me, and I can tell she means it. I'm filled with gratitude and the lump in my throat swells again. I close my eyes briefly and take a deep breath before waving my hand through the air as if to dismiss the tension. It's my birthday, I blurt out, in an attempt to regain the atmosphere we were enjoying before I ruined it by opening the door to the past. I don't particularly care about celebrating my birthday, but I need a diversion. It works, and I'm relieved to see Amine's face light up. In that case, we better make this a night to remember. 1 hour and 2 tankards later, we're in the middle of another conversation when a woman steps out from behind the bar. There's a dip in the raucous atmosphere as she stands there in a simple green dress with flowers in her hair before starting to sing. Everybody, and I do mean everybody, joins in with a surprising enthusiasm. It's a simple tune, with a beat provided by the drunken patrons pounding their fists and feet as they sing. It tells the story of a man working in the mines. One day his wife tells him not to go to work because she's had a prophetic dream that something will go horribly wrong. The man doesn't listen, but that day there's a rumbling sound and the mine collapses. The man is trapped underground and convinced he's going to die, but the thought of his lover keeps him going. The song ends with the miner's wife taking him up to bed, and the bar is filled with loud cheers and laughter. Emine and I share a look and she gestures towards the door. I could definitely do with some fresh air right now, so we both climb to our feet, drinks in hand, and make our way outside. Stumble is probably the right word as far as I'm concerned. I can't remember the last time I was this drunk. At least Amine's weaving now. I was beginning to think she was going to drink me under the table, which she'd never let me live down. The early October air hits me like a cold slap as I walk outside. I hadn't realised until right now how hot it is in there. Taking a few deep breaths, I feel the world stop swimming quite as much. The sky is clear, the moon is bright, and the stars are out in force. Over the last few weeks, the oppressive heat of the summer has given way to cooler nights, and the paved area at the back of the inn is pretty much deserted. There's plenty of free tables, so we choose one away from the others, and I slump gratefully into my seat. A sweeping field stretches out before us, and I can just make out the Brathwell farm in the distance. Minton is a small town by Northern Kingdom standards, but I would love to have seen it in its heyday. Life on the outskirts of the kingdom isn't easy. The march of progress has left them behind. These days, outsiders have very little reason to come here, but Bossman's trying to change that. I've heard promising stories. I gather he has no love for Halborough nor the Queen Regnant, and why would he? Minton has been ignored and neglected in favour of more profitable towns. They've been left to their own devices to fend for themselves, and needless to say, that's fostered a growing sense of resentment from the locals. Hopefully, Bossman has what it takes to make things better. In a way, Minton reminds me of home. It's full of simple people just trying to get by. The gratitude people have shown for even the smallest favour has been overwhelming. When we helped to fix a loose wheel, we both received enthusiastic handshakes and an invitation to dinner, which turned out to be delicious. Time and time again, the simplest things have been met with warm smiles and people insisting that they're forever in our debt. I'm snapped back to reality with a jolt as the doors to the inn burst open. Bax, I'm telling you, mate, I'm faster than you any time of the day. Any day of the year, pal. A man slurs to his friend as they make their way over to the edge of the field. In your dreams, his friend objects loudly before placing his drink on an empty table. The first man is tall and lithe, with close cropped hair. The second is broader, with a subtle paunch starting to form. He's maybe an inch or two shorter, but with an almost identical haircut. It's hard to tell in this dim lighting, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were brothers. I raise an eyebrow at Emine, and she shoots me a smirk in return. The taller guy catches it, and throws us a friendly wave. What about you, pair? Ben faster than you two and all. I'm almost certain you are, mate, I answer with a warm smile. I'm not racing this man. Not a chance. We'll take you up on that, Emine chips in with a dangerously competitive glint in her eyes. Loser buys the next round? Oh, brilliant. Why didn't I see this coming? Of course she was going to rise to the challenge. I really should know better by now. I'm not. She cuts me off with a glare that tells me it's absolutely pointless to argue. Fine. Racing it is. With an exaggerated sigh, I push away from the table and climb unsteadily to my feet. Emine jabs me playfully in the ribs as we line up beside the two men. "Okay, to the creek and back?" she asks, and we nod in agreement. "All right, on your marks then, lads." We wait a few seconds, the taller man signals for us to start, and then we're all sprinting and giggling uncontrollably as we go. I make it about 10 yards before I stumble. For a split second I'm sure I'm going to end up sprawled in a heap, but I just about manage to catch myself. Seeing that Emine hasn't noticed me falling behind, I stop running. Fair enough. Moving back to our table, I sit with my legs stretched out and my hands behind my head as I wait. Emine dashes back a minute later with the other two hot on her heels. It's close, and I think she's going to win, but with a last-ditch effort, the shorter guy pushes himself and just about manages to get back first. "Having fun?" I ask Emine with a raised eyebrow as she leans heavily on the table. "You're so boring," she wheezes breathlessly. I'm just lazy. I hate running, and it's my round anyway, so I thought, why not just take one for the team? We end up spending the rest of the night with the two of them, drinking, singing, and playing various competitive games. I beat Elf, the taller one, at arm wrestling, but suffer a miserable loss to his friend Baxter, which I'm sure Emine isn't likely to let me forget anytime soon. Baxter seems particularly smitten with Emine as he admires the ink on her arm. When we first met, she only had the intricate design on her wrist, but on our travels we stopped in a town called Midvale where a tattooist expanded upon it. Now, most of her forearm is covered, and the artwork is impressive. Unfortunately for Emine, the more Baxter drinks, the more obvious his attraction becomes. At one point I even see him run one of her long braids through his fingers, and that seems to be the final straw. Excusing herself, Emine strides over to the bar, and Alf slaps Bax around the back of the head. "What are you playing at? She's going to knock you out in a minute if you're not careful," he warns. "I'm not being that bad, am I?" Baxter asks with a furrowed brow. Alf throws a glance my way, and I shrug in response. "Just lay off a bit, pal. I don't think the hands-on approach is doing you any favours," Alf tells him firmly. I feel a bit sorry for Baxter as his face flushes with embarrassment. After that, the night progresses in a drunken haze. We're still at it when the bar slowly starts to empty. At around midnight, the bartender rings the bell for last orders, and the remaining customers, including the four of us, groan with disappointment. Alf and Baxter get to their feet, and we all shake hands before they leave. The journey up to our room seems daunting, and I sit quietly for a moment to gather my strength. Emine watches me, her eyes filled with a quiet mirth. "Would you like me to carry you upstairs, or are you sleeping here tonight?" "Don't start," I groan, before stretching and beginning the mammoth task of climbing to my feet. Emine follows suit and offers the bartender a cheery wave as we make our way over to the door. "If we ever meet the guy who invented stairs, I'll hold him, you punch him," I complain, as I grip the banister tightly and haul myself up to our room. "If you fall on me, we're gonna fight," Emine warns me, jabbing me in the back and prompting me to speed up a bit. The sense of achievement when I reach the top is disproportionate to the task I just completed, but that doesn't stop me grinning like an idiot as I shuffle triumphantly along the hallway. Leaning against the wall, I wait as Emine unlocks the door, and then we stumble our way inside. It's a small room, but it's clean and comfortable enough. The moon shines its pale light through a window in the far wall. There's a little fireplace, a dressing table and 2 single beds. Throwing myself fully clothed onto the bed that I've claimed as my own, I watch the room spin dangerously around me. I close my eyes and gulp down a few deep breaths until the worst of it passes. I know I'm going to hate myself in the morning, but right now I'm going to say it's totally worth it. I hear Emine climb into her own bed, and then we settle into a companionable silence for a few minutes. "This was fun," I murmur groggily. I want to roll over and face her, but the bed is so comfortable that I'm finding it hard to summon the motivation to move. "It was," she agrees quietly. "It's nice here. The people are good." "Yeah, I think Bax might have been a fan of more than just your ink, you know." "Shut up. I can already hear the wedding bells." "Shut up. I hope you don't want me to make a speech. I'd be very embarrassed." "Shut up, or I'm going to smother you to death with a pillow," she warns. We both crack up for a second, before lapsing back into that contented silence. It doesn't take long for my mind to start wandering, and before I know it, I'm drifting. Something wrenches me awake. It takes me a few seconds to adjust to the muted blue-grey light of early morning. What was that? Did I hear a scream? Feeling suddenly sober, I swing my legs out of bed and I'm taken aback by what I see. Emine sits on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, back against the wall, panic-stricken. It looks like she's genuinely terrified. Moving over to sit beside her, I'm about to say something when she holds up a finger to silence me. I watch as she takes deep, rhythmic breaths and slowly starts to calm. Meanwhile, I'm feeling a rising tension in my gut. I've never seen her this agitated, and whatever the explanation is, it's not going to be good. There was this man. I had a dream, I don't know, maybe it was more than that, but there was this man, she says so quietly I can barely hear it. I saw him off in the distance, and I knew I needed to talk to him. I can't explain it, but I felt him notice me, and then he was right there in front of me, just staring. There was blood coming out of his mouth, and the look in his eyes was like he was in so much pain, but so angry at the same time. He pointed back in the direction he came from, and I saw a shadow, or a storm cloud or something. It was spreading across the sky towards me. The moment she makes eye contact sends a shiver down my spine, and the knot in my stomach tightens. In the soft morning light, she still looks pale, but no longer terrified. There's something strange that I can't quite put my finger on. She takes another deep breath before continuing. Dark days ahead. That's what the man said. Dark days ahead. Then the wind was whipping round me and he was gone. I couldn't take my eyes off that shadow, it was just getting closer and closer. I felt afraid and I wanted to run or scream, but I couldn't. Then I was back in the room, but the man was there, just standing by the window. He turned to you, and that must be when I actually woke up. I don't like this at all. What does it mean? Over the last few months, Emine has been unshakable, but I watch as she suppresses a shudder and wipes away the tears rolling down her cheeks. Taking my hand, she shuffles closer, and I stroke her knuckles softly with my thumb. I'm sure it didn't mean anything. I lie unconvincingly, but it's hollow and meaningless, because we can both see through it. It did, she insists, and I see nothing but certainty in her dark eyes. I've never had a dream like that, Evander. Never. Something bad's coming. I can feel it. Cautiously, because I'm not sure whether or not it's the right thing to do, I wrap my arm gently around her and pull her close. It's the first time that I've done this, and I'm not entirely sure how she's going to react, but she doesn't resist, and instead leans into me as she takes more steadying breaths. I'm lost for words. How can I convince her everything's going to be okay? Emine isn't exactly prone to overreactions, which means this is something to be taken seriously. Ever since we first met, she's been a brick wall, solid and dependable with a strength that inspires me. To see that hard exterior crumble, even briefly, is unsettling to say the least. I have no doubt that she believes wholeheartedly the dream meant something, and so do I. But what? Dark days ahead. Who was this man? What does his message mean, and why must it be so cryptic? If there's danger on the horizon, why not just tell us what it is? Deep down, in my gut, I know the answer. Doyle. This has something to do with him. I know that some people might accuse me of getting distracted, or giving up on finding him, but that's not how it is. My path is laid out for me. It began in Huxley and led me here. I have to believe that there's a reason for everything that's happened, that certain things are beyond my control. I have to follow my heart with the faith that one day the gods will bring us together. What other choice do I have? The truth is, I have been ignorant and foolish. Only now does it occur to me that Emine is wrapped up in all of this due to her association with me. Our fates have intertwined. The idea that I might be putting her in danger is troubling, but I know she would never willingly turn aside now. It would be an insult to tell her that she should, tantamount to saying that I don't believe in her, which I do. This friendship that we've cultivated is important to me. I need it, and although that is undoubtedly selfish, I think Emine feels the same way. Nevertheless, I have plenty of food for thought. In the end, I decide to say nothing. I don't want to offer empty platitudes, and so I just hold her. Eventually, Emine untangles herself and pulls away. I'm relieved to see that she looks a lot calmer now, and although there's still a tension in her shoulders, the familiar fire in her eyes is back. "I'm gonna get some air," she tells me, as she retrieves her boots and begins putting them on, fumbling the buckles with trembling hands. "Do you want me to come?" "No." She shakes her head as she strides over to the door. Turning back, she flashes me an apologetic smile. "I just need to clear my head." "Don't worry, I understand. Take your time and we'll meet up later." "Try to get some more sleep. I don't want you just lying there worrying. It's not going to do any good." "Okay," I agree, and then she shuts the door behind her quietly. I listen to the sound of her footsteps as they fade, until I'm left in silence with this tension solidifying in my gut, and the words of this unknown man rattling around in my head. "Dark days ahead.